Michael J. Tollin, director of Unraveling George. What made you want to tell this story?
You gotta get past the mythology and get to the truth, and that's what this documentary was about. Now, I know Air was a very successful movie. It was a crowd pleaser. I actually enjoyed it very much. But as we all do when we make movies, quote, based on a true story or inspired by a true story, we take some liberties. This was a movie that, in addition to honoring George Raveling, was an effort to sort of tell the real story about how and why Michael Jordan ended up at Nike, and the Air Jordans became a phenomenon that changed the sporting landscape, didn't it?
It did change the sporting landscape, and when you bring in Michael Jordan, we have to talk about the project you executive produced, The Last Dance.
Okay.
Well, just in so much
Why
as
not?
your ties to basketball and basketball being such an indelible part of the black experience, where do you fit in all of that?
Well, I'm a Philly kid, so that means I grew up loving basketball. And in fact, in my childhood, George Raveling recruited my first sports heroes to Villanova University. Johnny Jones and Howard Porter. You never heard of them.
No, I saw the documentary.
Okay,
So
so now no, but I mean, these are relatively obscure people. But as a little 6, 8, 10-year-old kid, I heard the name George Raveling, that he would go to Florida and recruit these kids. As it's pointed out in the film, you know, they couldn't play where they grew up because the SEC was not allowing black players. Those schools weren't integrated yet. And so George went down there and recruited these kids to come up to the north. That's number one. Then there was the 76ers, the only professional team in my childhood that won a championship. And I was maybe 11 years old when the Sixers finally beat the dreaded Celtics, when Wilt finally got the best of Bill Chamberlain. So that had an impact on me. But truly and most deeply, there was a man named Dick Allen, who was called Richie Allen back then, who was the first black superstar for the Phillies. And he was my hero. He just got inducted to the Hall of Fame last week. It's a different sport, but it's the same kind of thing where sports heroes create these larger-than-life role models and have this impact and create this emotional connection. And I couldn't understand why all these people in Philadelphia were booing my hero, our best player. It was a very, very challenging time. Polarized city, rampant racism, there's no other way to say it. And he was really suffering in a really tough time. And I somehow wanted to hug him and just felt like I needed to hang on to him. And as I got older and got into this business of storytelling, he became my friend. And then I started making a film about him, and hopefully that's going to come out. But that's where I fit in, and that's how it all came into my consciousness.
A Philly kid making a movie about his heroes and brings it to Martha's Vineyard, the African American Film Festival. Part of the festival this year is the idea of sparking joy. And as a storyteller and the stories that you have told, what brings you the most joy in what you've done?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying all that. And just the way you describe that, how lucky am I to have that journey and to be here? I wanted to come here for a long time. And when I started making this film and we started talking about its journey, I had my sights set on this. In a funny kind of way, you know how the universe has a plan, right? It took longer than we thought it would or maybe should, and I think it was all about just getting to the right pace, the right cadence, so I could finish it in time to have the world premiere here. Joy for me is being able to honor a person who deserves to be honored, and nobody embodies that more than George Raveling.
You tell fantastic stories. You have told a fantastic story about an even more fantastic human being. Michael J. Tollin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Happy to be here.